Stop motion. The heart of cinema. Where everything first began in film. Today, we're going to be talking about the history of the one and only stop motion. So, when did stop motion first begin? It first began in the Roman times, just the Roman times. And it started with a magnifying glass used by none other than the great sun himself, the sun. Looking up in the clouds, stop motion started from that up in the clouds. And it wasn't up until the early 18th century with films when cinema brought in the first ever stop motion, which was it was in film, black and white film. It had some. It was pretty much big objects moving at once, and that started in the early or late 18th century. Forgot to do I forgot the person's name who actually planned it up. Who actually started it up. But Thomas Edison, in a way, he assisted because he was not only the one that created cameras, and he was the one that created the camera, and in a way, he did create stop motion, so he needs some credit there as well. But it was during the late 18th century which stop motion was implemented into cinema, but it began in a much more interesting way with two guys in the 18th century. Keep on forgetting people's names in this video. What's going on with me? And they began off making short film, which is now lost to the stars. It was said to be one of the best of its time, which stop motion was the best of its time. But they used their daughter's dolls to make the animation, and based on what I've researched on it, it's pretty good actually. Even though all the footage is now lost to this day, we cannot find the footage at all. And during the early 19th century, there were films implementing the art of stop motion into it. For instance, King Kong. The original King Kong. Ghostbusters included stop motion with half stop motion, half CG. In a way, with what's that little green guy that flies around? If I forget his name. Yeah, you can laugh at that if you want. But it was in the early 19th century when stop motion really skyrocketed. And stop motion was used to bring non-human characters to life. I know, mind-blowing, right? Can you imagine, an alien walking around in stop motion? Wow, like something like this behind me. That could be animated. I could be animating this right now, and you guys won't even know. But that's practically because what's seen over there, not all of that is human looking, and that's what I'm trying to say. That in the early 19th century is that they use so much to bring non-human characters to life. I forgot most of the film, but I did get the main message of it, which I hope you will do with this as well, because and then when it got up to the early 20th century is when stop motion started to get faded out for some reason. Why did that get faded out? Because of CG flipping eye. That's why. CGI replaced stop motion, which still even to this day, most of the films that you see now are related to stop motion films. Like the updated King Kong, that's all CG, but it began off with stop motion. And I'm going all over the place right now with the history of all this, but you all need to understand all this in order to get what I'm saying with the art of animating, which has been, in the early 20th century, has been adopted by people like me, creators on the internet have adopted creating since it was, well, not ever since, but it's been used a lot in the early 20th century, and that's practically what the main point of it is. Like, creators like me have been creating with stuff like this since early 20th century, which is where we got up to. And I know I'm repeating, yes, I know I'm danceable, stop repeating stuff. And I know, it's, the art of animating has been, even though it was lost in the film side of things, it's been brought back, because it's evolved from being claymated and using a metal endoskeleton as well to make some of the creatures come to life. Yes, I bet you didn't know that from the earlier films. Well, now you do. And that's how they were brought to life in their respective films. And there was one film which used which mixed stop motion and real life filming together, and then a lot of films after that started doing that. The only film I can think of at the moment is just King Kong. That's the only relatable thing I can think about. Or the only film I can think about that has got that mixture between stop motion and live action. But yeah, that's practically all, really, of all the history. Stop motion's been through a lot, and it's evolved from claymation through metal, well, with metal endoskeletons, to now, what's the name again? I forgot. Sorry about that. To now, 3D printing. Because as you can see, in the later films, the films that have been released nowadays have been using 3D printing. So we've evolved from animating with clay to metal to 3D printing. Yeah, just give me a little while. And one of the best films, well, one of the best examples of this was one that was started off in the late 19th century, being The Nightmare Before Christmas. That film will still be all, no matter what people say, that is one of the best animated films. As well as Kubo and the Two Strings, which is in later one. Like, stop motion animation really brought them to life. And did you know, in Kubo and the Two Strings, they actually used a bit of CGI in it, which you wouldn't notice unless you had a look at the behind the scenes, which I did. And yeah, that's practically it of all the history. And let's have a little walkthrough to double check that it's all been done. So let's start off with back in the Roman times, which being used by our son, the early 19th century. Oh, right. In between that time, one thing I forgot to tell you guys about is in between the Roman times and the early 18th century, there used to be a thing called a xylophone, which did the exact same thing as what stop motion does, which is using one image and then going all around and only move. And this is when my mouth stops working, with it going around looking like the image is moving. And if you haven't had a look at any stop motions, yeah, you have been, I don't know where you've been for the past couple of centuries, because the stop motion has been around for ages now, before the Roman centuries. But it's gone from Roman in between 18th and 19th century being films, and nowadays there's been stop motion animators now using it beside a film company which uses all stop motion, but actually makes all their films out of stop motion. I need to try and remember the company's name, but that's practically the entire timeline of it all, and that's practically how it all evolved over time, just by simple use of bright sun now to indoors on a camera, which also you can now which you can actually do stop motions on your own phone now. Mind is blown. Yeah, but that's practically it for this video. And if you saw the animation I put up before this, which is also stop motion, which if you see at the end, the end video would be an animation too, just to point it out. And if you didn't notice, I didn't add any animations throughout this talk of telling you the animations. My apologies, I didn't have enough time to animate all the way through, and next time there'll be more animations. If not, have a look up on my YouTube channel under Danceable's Life or Transformer Geek if you want to see more animations, more stop motions, because I'm going to be doing them more frequently from now on. Even though it's a long, tiring process that really should be looked upon. But yeah, that's been it for today's video, or this video in general, this history video in general, because this is my first time doing this. I was a bit nervous, but other than that, this is all the history of it, and I'll see you all next time, either online, well, on my social medias, or anywhere else on the web. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time. See you guys in a new animation, which will be coming soon to a social media site near you. Yeah, that didn't sound right. And also, if you don't know what animation is, just search up. Just search up stop motion animation, unless you've been living under a rock the entire time. Because it's literally been around for 4 centuries now, realistically. That's how long it's been around for. Actually, not even 4 centuries. It's been around since the Romans, so even before we were even... It was even before I was born, so... Other than that, yeah, just thought I'd say that in there. This is a bit all over the place, I know, but I'll see you guys next time. Have a great rest of your day, and yeah, I'll see you guys either in person or next time. Till we meet again.